Trigger look and point angle sensor, entities that react to the gaze of the player and other objects. Trigger look is a brush entity, being inside of which the player must look at the target set by the trigger and certain period of time, after which the classic trigger command will be executed. The fourth variable is responsible for how accurately the target shall be in the player field of view. -1. The player will just need to be inside the entity to activate the trigger command. 0. The goal will simply be enough to get into the player's field of view. 1. The player must look exactly at the target, otherwise the trigger command will not be executed. You can also set your own value, from -1 to 1. The last variable, timeout, indicates the period of time during which the player must have time to see and look at the target. Otherwise, the timeout command will be executed instead of the trigger command. I strongly repeat, you should have time not only to notice, but to look at the target during the time that was specified in the look time variable. If you leave 0, the player can see and look at the target at any time while he is inside in the trigger. In outputs, trigger look also has variables from trigger multiply, such as on start touch and on end touch, which means that trigger look can be used many times if desired. On the flags tab, it's important that the client and fire ones are marked if you want to activate the trigger only once. That's all.
На стене рядом висит картина. Пожалуйста, встаньте перед ней. Это предмет искусства. Вы услышите сигнал. Когда услышите сигнал, внимательно посмотрите на картину. Теперь вы ощущаете духовное обновление. Если созерцание картины не принесло должного интеллектуального удовлетворения, прослушайте отрывок музыкального произведения.
Владимир Путин, молодец!
Now that you've got how to trigger look works, it's easy for you to understand point angle sensor, because this entity works in a similar way. The difference is what an inanimate object acts as an observer. Let's look at a simple example. We have two cubes of the funk fizz box. Every time the second cube gets into the field of view of the first cube, the end spark lights up or goes out. And now let's look in details about point angle sensor entity. The target entity name variable is the name of the observer. In our case, it's the first cube. Look at entity. The target that the observer should look at. This is the second cube. Duration. How long it takes the first cube to notice the second one. And the last variable is tolerance. Here we assume an acceptable viewing angle for the first cube. On facing look at. What happens when the observer notices its target? And spark turns on and off. The next command, facing percentage, tracks how accurately the target is in the observer's fields of view. The principle of a smooth variable from 0 to 1 in real time works here. So, the map color blend entity, which is responsible for coloring object, can be used as an indicator. Then the second cube is in the field of view of the first one, the observer turns blue. Then the cube loses its target, it turns red. I hope everything is clear. Now let's start the game and see how it works in real life. It's okay. Perhaps you have already thought about how to find out where the front side of the object is and how to specify it. By default in Source Engine, the front side of all objects is considered to be the eastern direction. There are two ways to change the position of an object's face. The first is simply turning the cube 90 degrees up. This method is not always convenient and practical. The second method uses info target as a tracked object, which is assigned to the cube using the parent variable. For precise coordination of movements, the info target is placed inside the cube. And do not forget to set the direction of the info target. Now, let's take a look at the flex tab of point angle sensor. This option makes the cube not just look at its target, but look in the same direction with it. That is, if cube number 2 is pointing up, and the info target attached to it looks down, then the second cube is turned to face the first. They see each other, but in fact, both info targets simply look in the same direction, to the east. After that, on the facing look at commands will work. Let's go on. I added 2 buttons to the map. The first one turns point angle sensor on and off, and the second one runs a test where the entity checks wherever the first cube sees its target. However, it does this at any time when it's enabled, but during manual testing, if the observer does not see its target, it can use the new on not facing look at command. In our case, mSpark is disabled every time. The cubes do not look in the same direction during the test with the button. We hope you understood everything, and this lesson was informative. Subscribe to the channel to know more about the Source engine. That's all, folks.